The puppies were already crying when the man stepped into the alley. 5 of them, huddled behind a stack of soaked cardboard, too young to understand why they had been left there. Their legs shook as they tried to stand. One slipped and couldn't get back up. The man stopped when he saw them. For a moment, he just stared. Then his face hardened. He kicked a loose bottle across the ground and bent down, picking up a thick piece of broken wood. The sound made the puppies panic. Their cries grew louder, sharper, desperate. He moved closer. There was no one around. No cameras he could see. No reason to stop. At the end of the street, a patrol car slowed. Inside, a K9 German shepherd lifted his head. The sound reached him before anything else did. Not noise, not chaos, fear. The dog stood, muscles tight, ears locked forward. The officer noticed immediately. Before the car fully stopped, the K9 was already focused on the alley. Back inside, the man raised his foot. That was when a deep bark cut through the air. Not close, but close enough. The man froze mid-step. What happened next would decide whether those puppies survived the night. The alley was narrow, boxed by brick walls stained with years of neglect. Trash bins overflowed near the back, and water pooled along the cracked concrete. It was the kind of place people passed without looking, even during the day. At night, it disappeared completely. The man liked that. He stood over the puppies, gripping the piece of wood tighter as their cries filled the space around him. The sound seemed to echo, bouncing off the walls, making the alley feel even smaller. His breathing grew heavy, uneven, as if something inside him had already crossed a line. The puppies pressed together, instinctively seeking warmth and safety from one another. They were too young to understand what danger was, but their bodies reacted anyway. One tried to stand and slipped. Another crawled beneath a torn box, hiding its face. The man stepped closer. He glanced once toward the street, then back at the puppies. No one was watching. No voices. No movement. Just him and the sound of fear. He lifted the wood. Across the street, a patrol car rolled slowly forward. Officer Daniels had no reason to stop there. It was a quiet block. No calls. No visible trouble. But the movement in the back seat caught his attention. Rex, his K9 partner, had gone still. That alone was enough to raise concern. Rex was trained to ignore the city. Sirens, shouting traffic, crowds. None of it mattered unless something was wrong. When Rex focused like this, it meant he had heard something Daniels couldn't. Rex's ears tilted forward. His body leaned toward the door. Another cry cut through the night. Daniels followed Rex's gaze to the mouth of the alley. He didn't hear the puppies clearly yet, but he saw Rex tense, muscles locked, ready. Daniels slowed the car. Before he could fully stop, Rex stood, waiting. Daniels opened the door. Rex moved fast, but not wildly. His stride was controlled, direct, and silent until the moment he reached the alley entrance. Inside, the man raised the wood higher. That was when Rex barked. The sound was deep and commanding, filling the alley in a way nothing else had. It didn't sound angry. It sounded final. The man spun around. Rex stood just inside the alley, his body angled to block access to the puppies. His head was low, eyes fixed, stance solid. He wasn't lunging. He wasn't backing away. He was holding the line. The man froze, his arm still raised. "Hey, easy," he muttered, taking a step back. Rex didn't move. Officer Daniels entered the alley moments later. "Drop it," he said. There was no shouting, no threat in his voice, just certainty. The man hesitated, then let go. The wood hit the ground and rolled toward the wall. Rex stepped forward once, placing himself fully between the man and the puppies. His presence alone was enough. The man's shoulders dropped, his posture collapsing as reality caught up with him. Daniels moved in quickly, turning the man around and securing the cuffs. There was no struggle, no argument, just silence and disbelief. As the man was led away, Rex stayed where he was until Daniels gave a short command. Then, and only then, did Rex turn back toward the puppies. He lowered his head and sniffed each one carefully. Their bodies were cold, their breathing shallow, but they were alive. Daniels removed his jacket and wrapped it around them, creating a barrier between the puppies and the concrete floor. Rex sat beside them, alert but calm, facing the alley entrance. For the first time that night, the puppies stopped crying. The alley felt different once the man was gone. The tension hadn't vanished, but it had shifted. The danger was no longer active. It lingered in the quiet, in the way the puppies stayed pressed together, unsure if it was really over. Officer Daniel stayed crouched beside them, keeping his voice low as he spoke into the radio. He requested animal control, gave their location, and described the condition of the puppies. His words were precise and calm, the kind that came from experience. Rex remained seated, his body positioned between the puppies and the open alley. He wasn't blocking Daniels. He wasn't hovering over the puppies either. He had chosen a spot that allowed him to watch everything. That wasn't an accident. K9 dogs were trained for control, not aggression. Rex wasn't there to comfort the puppies in a human way. He was there to make sure nothing else happened to them. Daniels glanced at him and nodded. "Good," he said quietly. Rex didn't react. His eyes stayed forward. The sounds of the city slowly returned. A car passed at the end of the street. Somewhere nearby, music played faintly. Life went on, unaware of what had almost happened in that alley. Daniels adjusted the jacket around the puppies. One of them let out a small sound, not a cry, more like a breath catching. Another shifted closer to Rex's leg. Rex stayed still. Daniels had seen that before. Animals sensed safety long before they understood it. A few minutes later, red and blue lights reflected against the brick walls as animal control arrived. Two workers stepped out, moving carefully as they approached. They took in the scene quickly and quietly, respecting the space. "Are they okay?" one of them asked. "Shaken," Daniel said, "but they should be fine." The workers knelt and began checking the puppies one by one. Each was lifted gently, examined for injuries, then placed back under the jacket. They worked efficiently without rushing. Rex watched every movement. When one worker reached too close, Rex shifted his weight slightly. Not a growl, not a bark, just a reminder that he was there. The worker noticed and adjusted position without comment. They finished the checks and brought out a small crate lined with blankets. One by one, the puppies were lifted and placed inside. The last puppy hesitated, paws slipping against the fabric, before finally settling down. As the crate door closed, Rex relaxed for the first time since entering the alley. His ears lowered slightly. His breathing slowed. Daniels clipped Rex's leash back on and stood. The alley was quiet again, but it no longer felt empty. The animal control truck pulled away, carrying the puppies toward warmth, food, and safety. Daniels watched until it disappeared down the street. "Let's go," he said. Rex turned with him, walking back toward the patrol car. But before reaching it, Rex stopped. He turned his head back toward the alley. Daniels paused, following his gaze. There was nothing there now, just brick walls and shadows. Rex stood for a moment longer, then continued walking. Back at the station, the report was filed. Body camera footage was reviewed. The man was charged. The process moved forward the way it always did. But Daniels couldn't stop thinking about how close it had been. If Rex hadn't reacted, if the patrol car hadn't slowed, if the sound hadn't carried just far enough, none of that would make it into the official report. What stayed with him was the moment Rex stepped into that alley. Not rushing, not hesitating, just doing exactly what he was trained to do. Protect. Later that night, Daniel stopped by the shelter where the puppies had been taken. He wanted to check on them before heading home. The puppies were warm now, federal cleaned, curled together in a quiet room. They were still small, still fragile, but no longer afraid. A shelter worker smiled when Daniels walked in. "They're lucky," she said. Someone was watching. Daniels thought of Rex, waiting in the car outside. "Yeah," he said. They were. The shelter was quiet in the early hours of the morning. Most of the staff had gone home, leaving only a few workers to monitor new arrivals. The puppies were placed in a small room away from the main kennels, where the noise was softer and the lights dimmer. They were bathed first. Warm water washed away dirt, oil, and fear that had soaked into their fur. Each puppy trembled at the touch, but none resisted. Exhaustion had taken over. Afterward, they were wrapped in towels and placed under heat lamps. Bowls of formula were set down carefully. One puppy drank eagerly. Another hesitated, then followed. Within minutes, all 5 were eating. That alone told the staff what they needed to know. They were going to survive. A veterinarian arrived shortly after sunrise. She examined each puppy carefully, checking ribs, joints, and paws. There were no broken bones, no internal injuries, just bruising, dehydration, and stress. "Lucky," she said quietly, closing her notebook. The word spread quickly through the shelter. Staff members stopped by the room, peering in through the glass. No one spoke loudly. The puppies slept in a pile, breathing slow and even. By midday, the story had moved beyond the shelter walls. Police reports were shared. Body camera footage confirmed what had happened. The man was formally charged. The details were hard to watch, but clear. The case didn't take long. There were witnesses nearby. There was video. There was a K-9 response that followed protocol perfectly. No room for doubt. No room for excuses. But while paperwork moved through offices and court dates were scheduled, something else was happening. People started asking about the puppies. At first, it was local officers, then shelter volunteers, then people who had seen a short clip online and wanted to know if the dogs were okay. The shelter phone rang constantly. Families asked about adoption. Some wanted 1 puppy. Others asked if they could take 2 together. The shelter staff took careful notes, asking questions, slowing the process down. These puppies weren't going anywhere without the right homes. Officer Daniels visited again 2 days later. Rex stayed in the car this time, resting after a long shift. Daniels walked into the shelter alone. The puppies were awake now, stronger, louder. They tumbled over each other, paws slipping on the floor, tails wagging without any idea why. A shelter worker smiled. "You should see them run." Daniels watched quietly. It struck him how fast life could change. 2 nights ago, those puppies had been silent with fear. Now they barked at each other, wrestling clumsily, completely unaware of how close they had come to losing everything. "They won't remember," the worker said, almost to herself. Daniels nodded. "That's the point." By the end of the week, each puppy had been placed on hold for adoption. Background checks were run. Home visits scheduled. The shelter moved carefully, refusing to rush despite the demand. They owed the puppies that much. As for Rex, the attention reached him too. People stopped Daniels on patrol to ask about the dog. Kids waved when the cruiser passed. Someone left a bag of treats at the station with a handwritten note taped to it. "Thank you for listening." Daniels taped it above Rex's kennel. Rex didn't notice the note. He didn't care about the attention. His routine stayed the same. Morning checks, training, patrol. But Daniels noticed something else. Rex listened more closely now. He always had. But Daniels found himself trusting that instinct even more. When Rex paused, Daniels paused. When Rex focused, Daniels paid attention. They didn't talk about it. They didn't need to. The system worked that night because every piece did its job. The officer, the training, the timing, the dog who listened when it mattered. And because of that, 5 lives moved forward instead of ending quietly in an alley no one watched. The puppies left the shelter one by one, not all on the same day. The staff spaced the adoptions carefully, giving each family time to prepare and making sure every placement felt right. No rush, no shortcuts. The first puppy went to a retired couple who had lost their dog earlier that year. They named him Lucky, not because of what happened in the alley, but because of what came after. A quiet house, slow mornings, a warm spot near the window. The second and third were adopted together by a young family with a fenced yard and 2 kids who argued over names for a week before settling on Max and Milo. The puppies adjusted quickly, following the kids everywhere, sleeping in a pile at night like they always had. The remaining 2 went to separate homes, both with experienced owners who understood what patience looked like. By the end of the month, all 5 puppies were gone from the shelter. The room they had shared was cleaned. The blankets were washed. The crate was put back into storage. Nothing marked what had happened there. That was how it was supposed to be. Officer Daniels followed the updates quietly. Shelter staff sent photos, short notes. Nothing dramatic. Just proof that things were normal now. That mattered more than any headline. The court case moved forward the way cases usually did. The footage spoke for itself. The outcome was decided without spectacle. Consequences followed actions. The system closed the file and moved on. Rex never knew any of that. He didn't know there had been charges or paperwork or discussions behind closed doors. He didn't know people had shared the story online or left messages at the station. What Rex knew was simpler. He had heard something wrong. He had responded. The sound stopped. That was enough. A few weeks later, Daniels and Rex were back on the same street during another evening patrol. Different weather, different light, same block. They passed the alley. Nothing stood out. No shadows, no noise, just brick and concrete, and the low hum of the city doing what it always did. Rex glanced toward the alley for less than a second. Then he looked forward again. Daniels noticed. He slowed the car briefly, then continued on. Moments like that didn't make reports. They didn't need to. They were reminders of why certain decisions mattered, why training mattered, why listening mattered. Not every emergency announced itself with sirens. Some of them sounded like fear, barely loud enough to hear unless you were paying attention. That night, someone was... 5 puppies lived because a K-9 did exactly what he was trained to do, and an officer trusted him enough to act. No hero speeches, no dramatic pauses, just timing, instinct, and control. Most people would never know how close it had been. The puppies wouldn't remember. The alley wouldn't remember. But the outcome stayed. Safe homes, full bowls, quiet nights, and a German shepherd who returned to duty the next day, ready to listen again.